on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, and this is WWE Last Week, your weekly look back at the week that was in the WWE. And I'm going to start the WWE podcast with one small AEW note. I did manage to stay awake through the AEW show last night, where Dean Ambrose and Discount Miz fought over CM Punk's championship, and it was happy for, in all seriousness, happy for Saraya to have her return to the wrestling world, if not the WWE, and kind of disappointed that Sasha Banks didn't make her debut in AEW. Which will be surprising to some people, because, oh my god, you know, Spaz, you hate Sasha Banks. Why would you be hoping for her to make her debut, make her big comeback to wrestling? Because it's AEW. What are we here to talk about? We're here to talk about WWE, and if she's going to injure people, let her do it somewhere else. Oh yes, so I am 100% behind Mercedes Varnado is all elite, because it'll mean she's more or less out of my sphere. Now, shout outs to all the people on that show the other night that were good. Obviously Jericho, obviously Bryan Danielson, obviously Mox, for all the Dean Ambrose jokes I make, is still Mox, and William Regal turned on Mox, and okay, it's a WWE storyline transplanted into AEW. Well done. And of course the Elite are back, so the proper reward for bad behavior narrative has reached its ultimate culmination, has it not? Tony Khan, you have a lot to answer for, let alone your addiction to cocaine. Moving on, let's talk about WWE. This is going to be a relatively short pod, hopefully, because I'm wicked tired, and because it's cold in Canada, it's hot in this house. Jesus Christ, you'll hear it in my voice. I'm very dry. I'm very much reliant on the drink in front of me right now. But also, WWE have Survivor Series coming up next, or should I say this weekend, and everything's kind of already in place. There's a lot of what I've been saying the past several weeks is there's a lot of awesome things happening, and everything I'm going to say this week is, hey, all those awesome things we've been talking about are still awesome, but it's not the same as saying, oh my god, this brand new thing happened. Now, a couple of programming notes to note. Obviously, as you guys know, there is no episode of WWE Last Week on the Monday of a pay-per-view weekend, because everything I would have covered then will be covered in the preview for Survivor Series War Games. Hoping to do it on the typical schedule, record it on Thursday, get it out to you guys Friday morning, etc. But also, I'm not going to be talking about NXT. There is an actual NXT review up. It is the last podcast before this one, I believe. And also, I'm going to divert you towards the commentary that I did on the upcoming changes to WWE's pay-per-view schedule. Now, I do want to reiterate two quick things from NXT, one being the debut of Ela Dawn, which I think is just going to be awesome. Give me more hot goth chicks in my women's division. It's all good. Genuinely hope she does well. She made her presence known in the main event in the women's championship match, so they're debuting her at the top. That's a good sign. And the other thing that I will say is Shawn Michaels' introduction to the Iron Survivor Challenge, which is going to be a very unique center point of the deadline. I keep wanting to say countdown. I keep wanting to think, because their logo for the deadline thing is like a countdown clock, I keep thinking that it's NXT Countdown, but no, it's NXT Deadline, and the Iron Survivor Challenge will be a nice, cool, interesting centerpiece of that. As I said in the NXT preview, I'm intrigued by the concept. I need to see it in practice before I decide whether it's good or not. But if you want my fuller thoughts on that, go back to the previous pod. As I said, we're going to talk about WWE, so we're going to talk about Raw, obviously. Which started off with Seth Rollins, who goes over the events of the previous week and how Balor and Styles and everybody else all sort of answered his open challenge at once. He goes over all the people that want a shot at him. He says, you know, Finn Balor, AJ Styles, Mustafa Ali, Bobby Lashley, and Austin Theory. Talks about how since he's picked up the United States Championship, it has been a main event championship, which is absolutely true. When he mentions Austin Theory and his failed cash-in, the crowd, as a one, down to a child, chanting that was stupid, and Rollins sort of breaks his stride for a second to say, yeah, he's going to be out here later, why don't you tell him that? Which is good. People want the United States Championship when I have it. It's now the top prize on Raw, which is very true. People will remember back in the day when John Cena was more of an ever-present presence in our life. Ever-present presence, that's the mentality I'm working on tonight. when John Cena had the WWE Championship, whoever was challenging him for the championship, obviously. But because John Cena hardly ever lost in his heyday, winning the WWE Championship was also kind of winning a trophy that says, hey, I beat John Cena. And Seth Rollins trying to put that kind of vibe into his promo to open Raw was really, really cool. He hypes up his main event with Balor tonight, which came out of the previous, Balor wanted to challenge him and then Styles interrupted him, chaos that happened the week before. Lashley comes out complaining about how everything went, how everything, the whole world's fucking him over and all that kind of thing. And Rollins makes fun of him for losing to Lesnar in Saudi Arabia, as he should. Ali comes out with a ref because Ali's pissed off at Bobby Lashley, and Ali also has a death wish. Now, this is funny because we already knew at this point that Mustafa Ali was taking the place of Rey Mysterio on SmackDown in the World Cup, the SmackDown World Cup on Fox. You have to say the full title or else it's not real. He's already beaten up by Lashley last week. And he's coming out to challenge Bobby Lashley again this week when he has a tournament spot against Ricochet on SmackDown, which we're going to talk about later. He gets owned by Lashley pretty quick, but we come back from the commercial break and it's Lashley versus Ali, and Bobby mauls him. He puts his head into the post with that weird, I don't know what they call that. The thing, he basically has him in an AA or an FU position, but instead of dropping him, he sort of runs him into the post. I don't know if there's a name for that. Somebody correct it down in the box below. He puts him through the commentary desk. He hits him with a Dominator, hits him with a weird choke slam thing, and Ali is failing as a babyface because Bobby Lashley, who's clearly the heel at this point, he hits him with the weird chokeslam thing, and the crowd starts chanting one more time, so he does it again. Then there's a spear, and then there's a hurt lock, and then he leaves the hurt lock on for so long that the ref stops the match. I know that this is supposed to put out the idea that, Ali is the scrappy underdog, he's the smallest dog in the fight, all that old Rey Mysterio iconography, but the crowd's not behind him, and the crowd enjoyed seeing him get the shit kicked out of him, so when he tapped out in the hurt lock, he just looked like a rag doll, and didn't give himself any motivation or any momentum, with a big capital M in WWE, for SmackDown, for his spot in the SmackDown tournament, which isn't his anyway, because it was supposed to be Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio has apparently injured his foot, well wishes to him, and we move on. AJ Styles, in the back, challenges Finn Balor one-on-one to a match at Survivor Series, and all the bells and whistles go off for that, because we thought, the whole reason of bringing in Mia Yim to balance out the presence of Rhea Ripley was there was going to be a 4-on-4 tag, and it started a whole big conversation on Twitter. Oh, by the way, for all of you guessing and hoping and wanting and dreaming otherwise, Twitter is definitely still there. Oh, yes. And I won't say the name of it, but I'll say the other Twitter that's not really Twitter. You can find me on there at Spaz Phoenix as well, if you so choose. Really threw into stark contrast what the rest of Judgment Day and the rest of the OC were going to be. Because immediately I was thinking, does this mean we're going to get the Good Brothers versus Damian Priest and Dominic Mysterio? Because that's a weirdly intriguing match in its own right, and obviously what are the ladies going to do? We're going to find that out shortly. Mia Yim has her comeback match on Raw against Tamina, and I get it. I get that people try to do good things, and if they know that people are a couple, and I know that, people have connections, etc., etc., and I made the connection last week that it was cool to see Mia Yim and Shelton Benjamin make their returns on the same night, because we know in real life that there's friends and there's a little mini connection there. When CM Punk got screwed out of WWE and left for a while, for a long time, when AJ Lee would have a match, AJ Lee should come back and be the 5th member of the team, but we'll talk about that later. When CM Punk left and AJ Lee still had matches and she got CM Punk chants, I know people were trying to show their support in a weird way, but it's super disrespectful to the guy there. And I'm not one to hop up on my high horse and talk about what's respectful and what's not, because you guys know I'm pretty much an asshole. But Mia Yim making her comeback match, Mia Yim, who got let go during the pandemic, I believe, somebody correct me down in the box below, finally making her comeback and having her first match back in a WWE ring in a very, very long amount of time, and getting the "Oh, bask in his glory" Keith Lee chants. It's not the compliment you think it is, guys. I'm just putting it out there like that. But I mean, it's Tamina, and Dominic and Rhea are out at ringside watching the match, and Rhea's whispering to Dominic, so all the weird people online are getting either really, really excited, don't do it, or really, really upset, don't do it about that. Damage Control are watching backstage as well. I really do think that this was a cool way to big up somebody coming back. Now, I wouldn't have said, okay, Mia Yim is making her big comeback, we want to make her feel big, put her in the ring immediately with the champion. No, put her in the ring with somebody like Tamina, who nobody expects to win, so all the focus can be on Mia Yim, which is absolutely fine, but then show that her being back has an impact. Her potential competitors are paying attention. Rhea Ripley's out on the rampway, having a peek. Damage Control are at the monitor in the back, or at the, do they still call it the gorilla position? That position just before they go out to the ringway. Show that. Don't try to grab the audience's attention. Show that this person's return has grabbed the other competitor's attention, and the crowd will be drawn in through that. That's what I think I'm trying to say here as I try to put word soup together. Obviously, Haluva kick by Mia Yim. She hits the Eat Defeat, and Mia Yim gets the win. Everybody is watching is the narrative. I like the Eat Defeat. I know it was initially created by Gail Kim, I believe. Somebody correct me down in the box below. I'm sure you all will. But the Haluva kick followed by the Eat Defeat is like a 1-2 punch. It's the same move from a different direction, is the best way to say it. But I like Mia Yim. She's got a vibe about her. And 100% of the time, 100% of the time, I will say she's not the best wrestler. She's not the best bell-to-bell in-ring competitor, however you want to say it, right? When, I don't remember whether it was TakeOver Toronto 1 or TakeOver Toronto 2, but there was the night where one of the matches was Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae, and one of the matches was Shayna Baszler, the champion, taking on Mia Yim. Now, the non-championship match was the better match that night by far, but Mia Yim is still a cool character, and there is a balance to be held there. I'm just saying. In the back, Damage Control walk up with their fake asses, and they try to recruit Mia Yim for WARGAMES, and she's like, yeah, thanks for inviting me, thanks for thinking of me for your team, but I don't have anything against those guys. Why would I join you? Type thing. The next matchup, I'm going to be completely honest here. I watched Raw a bit late the past Monday because I got home late. And when you're fast forwarding through a show, something's got to give. And I'm sorry, as much as I like Riddle and as much as I like Gable and as much as the match, from what I've heard, is absolutely fabulous, I skipped through this match. So I'm going to assume that it was great. Gable got the win, which is fine. Riddle's kind of Teflon. And then JBL is shown in the back with Baron Corbin playing poker. They brag about drinking Ugandan whiskey, which is nice. Is there really good whiskey in Uganda? I really don't know. That's not me trying to be arrogant or ignorant. That's me just admitting what I don't know. They get joined by Tozawa, and it's going to be one of those, the guy pretends that he doesn't know anything about poker so that the bad guys let their guard down and then they lose all their money, and that's the story going forward. He comes in with big sunglasses, and he looks like one of those dorks that you see on televised poker. Now, I'm not a sports guy in general. You guys know this. This is why I'm a pro wrestling fan. I don't watch football. Grey Cup's going on right now. I don't watch soccer. That's what it is, folks, on the other side of the world. It's soccer. I don't watch real football. I don't watch baseball. I don't watch hockey, which makes me a horrible Canadian, I know. But outside of my own sphere, there are things that I don't understand why they are televised. I don't understand why golf is televised, because what are you getting out of that? It's some comedian a while ago said it's an hour or two of watching the sky, which it absolutely is. I don't understand televising people playing darts. I don't understand televising people playing pool, and I definitely don't understand televising people playing card games. Now, if you're looking to learn how to play poker and you're learning how to, do different strategies and all that kind of thing, then yes, I'm sure for you it serves a purpose per se, but I wouldn't call it entertainment. So him coming in with the hoodie and the sunglasses and all that thing and making fun of those people was really good, and JBL and Corbin piss off all the right people, so they're good in my books. The Miz comes out, and he's out to give an apology. He comes out, he doesn't come out with his usual pomp and circumstance. He comes out with a sweater that kind of makes him look like Mr. Rogers, and it's Miz TV, hosted by Byron Saxton, so that Miz TV can be the guest, which is weird. He gets out his glasses to read a prepared statement. He tries to sort of excuse hiring Dexter Lumis to fake attack him. He says, all I wanted was empathy. I've given this company 18 years of service. I've gotten no cheers. I don't ask for much, but everybody else just likes to take and take and take. Everybody else is greedy. I'm just out here trying to be a good father, a good husband, but I'll be honest, right now I feel like a depressed victim. Gargano comes out and he says, you're not a depressed victim. You're not a victim at all. Weren't you in Cabo a couple weeks ago? I saw it on your wife's Instagram. You always like to take the easy way out. He calls him Mike again. He calls him a compulsive liar. He makes fun of the Mr. Rogers sweater. And in 2 weeks, Dexter Lumis is going to face you. And not only are you going to give him his back pay when he beats you, but he will have finally earned a WWE contract. Now, that doesn't make any sense because how are you contracted to a match if you're not in a contract? Yeah, I get it. But it's wrestling logic. It's absolutely fine. Dexter Lumis already has music from a couple weeks ago when he was supposed to face The Miz. How does he already have a music and an entrance when he's not on contract yet? I get it. I get all those nitpicky Michael Sidgwickian things, but I also don't care. In 2 weeks, they don't clear. I think they tried to clarify it later on commentary, but he just says in 2 weeks, and 2 weeks from Raw would be Raw. But I think the implication is that it's happening at Survivor Series, which is absolutely fine. And then we find out, shock horror, one of the cameramen was Dexter Lumis all along. Okay, here's the thing, and I think I said it last week and I say it again this week. This would be good if Survivor Series was this week or last week or whatever the case may be. I like Johnny Gargano. I like Johnny Gargano being the babyface asshole. It works, right? I like The Miz. The Miz is out there to be the guy that wants to get smacked and then be the guy that gets smacked. And Dexter Lumis, I said it in NXT, he works as part of the Johnny Gargano / The Way story. I don't give a shit about him on his own, but as part of a Johnny Gargano-Miz feud. Because this is the thing, much like, and I'll give a bit of credit to this because it was actually a good match, the Luchasaurus versus Jungle Boy at Full Gear. It was a cage match, they put it in the opener, it was all nice. It was a fun match, but it wasn't the finale. The finale is going to be when Christian Cage has his arm all healed up and whatever, and Jack Perry gets his hands on him. That's absolutely the case. What's going to be the big thing here is when Miz, who's the heel that's getting bullied by the faces, which, okay, do with that what you will, when The Miz gets his hands on Johnny Gargano one-on-one and they have a match at a pay-per-view. I'm sure it'll be on like the undercard of the Royal Rumble or something like that because there's not another pay-per-view after this one. So the match that they're building for, I think, Survivor Series is the match that they're building is the pre-match to the match that's gonna happen. So although I like the people involved, I want the final match. I don't want the preliminary match, which is going to be Miz versus Dexter Lumis, which is fine. And they do have to eventually just get Dexter Lumis a kayfabe contract so that he can just be on the show without them trying to keep writing reasons for him to be on the show. Dominic Mysterio, backstage, talks shit to Shelton Benjamin, calls him a loser, calls him a has-been, says, you know, kind of like all the other people from my dad's generation, which is good. He steps up to Dominic. Dominic hides behind Damian Priest. Damian Priest challenges him to a match. He says, sure, I'll have a match with Dom. Dominic versus Shelton Benjamin. Rhea Ripley and Priest are obviously at ringside. Dominic fucks with Shelton Benjamin. I mean, he fucks with Shelton Benjamin through the match. He does a whole lot of Eddie poses. Shelton does his best to make Dominic look like a great star. He does his great through the whole match. Shelton Benjamin is in, like I said, I think I said it last week, he's going to be in that Ziggler role. He is amazing at making other people look better than they are. So, by virtue of that, he made Dom look great. Dom does the Eddie taunt, Dom does the frog splash, Dom gets the win. Now, I love the trail of consciousness here. Dominic fucks with Shelton Benjamin. Shelton Benjamin, who, as I've already mentioned, is real-life friends with Mia Yim. Mia Yim, who's in the OC, who are facing the Judgment Day constantly. It all kind of does come together if you take the on-screen story and a little bit of what people know behind the scenes. It all does tie together very nicely. And it all does come together if the OC were facing the Judgment Day 4-on-4 at Survivor Series. But we'll get there when we get there. Austin Theory is in the back and he looks really serious after the failed cash-in last week. And oh my god, everybody on Twitter and social media, even though they're saying Twitter is dying, they're still going to Twitter to say that Austin Theory is also dying and the cash-in was the worst cash-in ever, blah, 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 blah. He's there. He says, the world wants to see me fail. He points out in explicit detail how stupid the idea of cashing in on Roman would have been, and I like that. Except he did try to cash in on Roman more than once. He talked about how, you know, he could have been taken out by Brock Lesnar, he could have been taken out by Tyson Fury, which I had totally forgotten about. He would have been taken out by the rest of the members of the Bloodline. He said, instead, I had one of the best former champions in WWE history, talking about Seth Rollins, on his back, and would have had him beaten if it wasn't for Lashley. And then off screen, you hear, and it might as well have been comic book guy from The Simpsons, like, worst cash-in ever. But it was Dolph Ziggler who was on the outside, and I forgot too, Ziggler, when Theory first came to Raw, had sort of tried to like tell him to watch himself and sort of gave him some advice here and there and whatever, and Theory lays out a challenge and it's all good, but he's presenting himself as a little bit more serious, which is always good. Now, we're going to talk about more of that later in the night as well. Io Sky comes out for singles competition, and I was like, okay, who are they going to put up against Io Sky? It's obviously going to be somebody from the other team at WARGAMES, but it wasn't. I had totally forgotten already about the little mini story of Nikki Cross winning the 24/7 championship and then putting in the bin, except not quite putting it in the bin. So it's Io Sky versus Dana Brooke, with Damage Control and Nikki Cross on the outside, and Dana Brooke cuts this, you know, as much as it can be for the 24/7 championship, cuts this impassioned promo about how hard she works, which is true, and how much she was trying to make that title that meant nothing to a lot of people and made it to mean something, but she's look where Dana Brooke is on the card. Let's be real, she should be higher, but look where she is right now. And she's facing Io Sky, who's part of one of the newest acts in the WWE, who's going on to have a major role at the pay-per-view in WWE, so she got owned. Meteora and Over the Moon Moonsault for the win by Sky. And Damage Control and Nikki Cross are celebrating in the rampway when Mia Yim comes back out onto the rampway to announce that, yeah, I didn't join your team because I have nothing against the people you're facing, but I have joined a team, and it is the other people you're facing. So it was kind of an awkward announcement, but then they all just kind of stood there for a bit, and Asuka looked awesome, and Alexa Bliss looked awesome, and Bianca Belair, who still has that title for reasons, sat there and twiddled her hair for a bit, and that was lovely, I guess. So yeah, we've got Damage Control and Nikki Cross so far taking on Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Bianca Belair, and Mia Yim. Not a bad WarGames match, if I'm being honest. Then we get Theory versus Ziggler. Theory comes out a little bit more seriously. Like, he's still got all the graphics in his intro from all the selfies that he's done and whatever, but he comes out, he's a little bit more serious. He doesn't have the camera with him. He's not doing the selfies at the time. I can't read my own goddamn writing. And he basically just beats the piss out of Ziggler, which is all good. He hits him with a torture rack bomb at one point. Ziggler gets him in a sleeper, but Theory does this kind of... Theory acts a lot with his face, and when it goes too far, it looks really goofy, but when you pull back from too far, it's actually pretty good. He's in the sleeper by Dolph Ziggler, looking pissed off in the sleeper. The beatdown continues. There's 2 A-Town downs and some ground and pound on the outside. The brawl stays outside, throws him into the steps, throws him into the commentator's table, and kicks the shit out of him until the referee calls it a no contest, where everybody and their mother had to pull Theory off of Ziggler. Now, nobody got a win here. It was kind of a fuck finish, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter that it was a fuck finish, because Ziggler is another Shelton Benjamin. Shelton Benjamin's playing the Ziggler role, and now Ziggler is playing another Shelton Benjamin role. The point of this match wasn't for a result. It was to show we're seeing the beginning stages of a more serious / more dangerous Austin Theory, which is good when you see what happens later on in the night. I like... You know, the one thing, it's very, very simple things. Oh, we shouldn't applaud WWE for doing simple things. And it's like, well, they're doing things that we complained about them not doing before. If we don't acknowledge that they're doing the things that we complained about them not doing before, then our complaints don't mean anything. So yes, I am going to compliment them doing things that they didn't used to do before, that I complained about them not doing before. They're stringing stories together. And it's not... You don't have to rewrite the Iliad. It's not AEW. We don't have to watch a cowboy get drunk and pretend that it's Macbeth. But the stories are connecting, and stories are bumping against each other, and it all really works. In the back, Damage Control are talking about the addition of Mia Yim to the opposition's team, and I think they're about to talk about, like, who should we get next and whatever, and Rhea Ripley doesn't get invited. She walks up to them and basically tells them that she's on their team. Basically, if Mia Yim's on the other team, then I'm on your team. Anybody got a problem with that? And they all kind of look at her like, because on the one hand, you don't want to say no to her because it's Rhea fucking Ripley. On the other hand, it's the idea of having that kind of weapon in your pocket. So that works. That is a kick-ass team right there. I'm sorry. Heel Bayley, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Nikki Cross, now that she's Nikki Cross again, and Rhea Ripley. That's a Survivor Series team. I said on Twitter, that could be the best put together Survivor Series team since DX, the Hardys, and CM Punk. But people are not going to agree with me right now because it's not very trendy right now to like CM Punk. But that's okay. We go back to JBL and Baron Corbin's locker room where they did, in fact, lose the card game. Then Baron Corbin and Tozawa have a match where Tozawa gets a lot of offense in, but he's not the pushed entity right now. Baron Corbin hits the end of days, which is still one of the coolest moves in the world, and Corbin gets the win. But I do hope that this means something for Tozawa. Something, I know. Dana Brooke had the 24/7 championship, and now she doesn't. And now I hope that frees her up to do not jobber stuff. I hope that the 24/7 title existing no more frees up somebody like Tozawa to do some cool stuff. I really do. Tozawa's really good if you actually see him outside of the 24/7 crap. Next week the announcement is made that one member from each team will take on each other on Raw for the advantage in the War Games match, etc. Now, this kind of bummed me out a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Because the one thing I did like about the War Game, everybody else hated it. I think I live on an island when I say I'd like this. The idea that the advantage for War Games was decided in a ladder match. And it's like, oh my god, why would you do something so risky? Why would you do something so dangerous right before you're going to be in a dangerous match? Well, that's exactly the point. The point is, look at how scary a ladder match is. Okay, we're so scared of what's going to happen to us in the War Games match that we're willing to go through a ladder match to have the advantage in that other bigger, badder, scarier match. You can't have escalation if you don't have a starting point, right? If you go from a regular match to a War Games match, right? Okay, well, a ladder match is more scary than a regular match, but they're willing to do the ladder match because that's how much scarier the War Games match is. Now, I will say, in one of the Elimination Chamber advantage ladder matches, I think it was Mia Yim that broke her nose. So I'm not implying that people should go out there and hurt themselves before they potentially go out there and hurt themselves. But if they're not going to carry that idea forward, and they don't do it on SmackDown either, spoilers, that's kind of a bummer because I thought that was such a unique thing. If you don't win the Royal Rumble, you can still get your way to WrestleMania through the fucking Elimination Chamber as a step to something bigger. I thought the ladder match to get into War Games was a cool version of that, but they're not doing that. And Belair basically says, yeah, we're not going to tell you who our fifth member is, and one of us will beat one of them next week, and we will have the advantage, blah, 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 blah. Balor, in a promo right before his match with Rollins, accepts the one-on-one challenge for Survivor Series. So now we kind of see why this is what it is, because the women of the respective OC and Judgment Day things have now joined two other teams that are having another battle at WrestleMania, and now these guys are going to have a one-on-one thing. So I put it to you guys right now. We thought we were getting that 4-on-4, which would have been really cool. Would have been a really good way to bring Rhea Ripley into the action of the match. Would have been a really good way to introduce somebody that ended up being Mia Yim. That 4-on-4 match was something we've all been predicting for a long time. But are both groups not better represented by two headliners going against each other like Balor and Styles, and having both of their women's members represented in War Games, as War Games is sort of a first again for the main roster? I mean, they've both been in it, so they're good people to have in it, but both factions, if you want to say that, are in matches that matter more than if those two factions were facing each other, because you got to believe at this point in the United States Championship picture, the winner of Balor versus Styles is going to get a United States Championship shot somewhere down the line. Words, I swear. And we saw last week when Rhea Ripley sort of walked by Bianca Belair, so she's going to want to make some kind of statement that gets her closer to Bianca Belair and her one-on-one for the championship. That should happen at the Rumble because that title needs to be saved. Oh yes, I wouldn't mind, I'm just going to go right into prediction territory for a second, I wouldn't mind if the heels win via Rhea Ripley pinning Bianca Belair. That wouldn't hurt my feelings in the slightest. Our main event is Rollins versus Balor for the United States Championship, and this match is really fucking good. Look who's in it. Rollins takes a corner of the table to the gut off of a really weird spot on the outside. Judgment Day come down for the distraction, which causes the near fall. OC join the brawl on the outside. Styles tosses Balor off the top, hits a stomp, and Rollins retains his championship. All of them battle, all of them brawl. They leave Seth Rollins kind of, holding his own because he doesn't have anything to do. He's not part of this, gang warfare, shall we say. But he's jumped by Theory, and he hits him with the A-Town down. He gives him a beatdown, the same beatdown he gave Ziggler. He gives him a belt shot and another A-Town down, and the whole thing goes off the air with Theory standing over Seth Rollins with that title held up over his head. So now, there's a couple things we thought we were getting that we're not getting anymore. We thought we were getting Judgment Day versus the OC 4-on-4. We're not getting that. Instead, the ladies are involved in the ladies' WARGAMES match. Instead, the captains of those teams are involved in a one-on-one match that's going to be absolutely fan-fucking-tastic. We thought, or at least I thought last week, that I wanted to see Rollins versus Balor versus Styles for the championship, but no. Instead, they're going to face each other, and Rollins and Theory, I'm predicting, it hasn't been confirmed yet, are going to have an absolute banger on the pay-per-view for the United States Championship as well. So be careful what you think you want when something better might come along down the pike. Oh yes, and that was Raw, and it was really good. So I hope you guys get what I say now when I just say there's not a whole lot new other than the building of the Survivor Series teams. Didn't expect the ladies to be joining as they did because I thought they were going to be part of that 4-on-4, but other than that, it was a pretty standard, I'm going to sneeze. I'm sure that's great for people listening with headphones. I really apologize, and we're going to try and carry on from that, and I'm going to try not to make big blasting noises in your ear holes again. Ear holes, oh yes. We start off SmackDown. As I said, we already covered NXT. We already covered the announcements that were made on NXT. We already covered the debut from NXT. If you want to watch me talk more about NXT, go to the review of NXT. So, we start off SmackDown kind of cold, confirming that it's going to be the Bloodline versus the Brawling Brutes, Drew McIntyre, and somebody at WarGames. So now we come out, we start off with the Brawling Brutes and Drew McIntyre coming out. Sheamus and Drew sort of give a history lesson on the two of them and the mutual respect that they have and the mutual respect that they all have, and we all have a common enemy in the Bloodline, and rah, the enemy of the enemy is my friend. Very cookie cutter, very cut and paste, but very appropriate for the story that we're trying to tell. They're about to introduce their fifth member. Sami Zayn says, we don't care about who the fifth guy is, and he guarantees victory at WarGames, which pisses off people later, and we will talk about that later. And he says, one of them, I think it was Sheamus, said, I think you're going to want to know who our fifth member is because it's somebody that you, Sammy, would have never predicted. And then they go on to sort of hype up the fact that it's going to be Sammy versus Butch in the SmackDown World Cup on Fox tournament later on tonight in the main event. But instead we come back and we get Ricochet versus Ali in that same tournament. Now, we played up really good what I said during the Raw portion here. We played up Ricochet being the super good guy. Hey man, what are you doing? You got to think twice about this. You know, you've got your injuries from the Lashley thing, whatever. You don't have to do this. I don't want to have this match and all this kind of thing. And in the early going, we have an interesting sell job going on because you got Ali selling. He's obviously taped up because that's the international sign of somebody that's hurt. You just wrap them with a bit of tape. It's fine. Ali is selling the injury. Ricochet is selling the concern and not wanting to be an asshole. But Ali is also selling that he's offended a little bit by Ricochet kind of handling him with kid gloves. So there's three different layers to it there. Ali, though, hits this thing, and I hope he adds this to his repertoire. I hope it wasn't just a one-off. They're battling on the top, and he works himself around to a top rope tornado backstabber. And I'm sorry, that should be a finisher. It really should. Falcon Arrow on the floor by Ricochet. Ricochet eats shit off the top rope. Ali tries something off the top rope and also eats shit, but then hits a shooting star press and Ricochet hits the shooting star press and gets the win. And you think that this is going to be where pissed off Ali, who can't really gain any traction right now, turns heel, because that's what would normally happen. But no, you got Ali sitting on the apron of the ring right there, and Ricochet doesn't try to help him up or anything like that, or try to give him, like, the good sportsman-like handshake or whatever. He just sort of slips to the outside of the ring and, like, sits beside him and gives him, like, a little fist bump and whatever. It's just, like, it's that old, like, I don't want to be too corny here, but, like, when you've got a friend that's going through something and you can't solve anything for them, and they don't really want you to solve anything for them. You just want to know that there's a friend that's there. And for, like, a split second, without really saying anything, Ricochet just kind of sat beside him on the rampway, and he was just like the friend that was there. And I thought that was, call me a sap. I thought that was really nice. I thought that was really cool. In the back, Jay and Sammy argue because Jay thinks Sammy shouldn't be, like, making promises on behalf of the Bloodline, and Sammy comes back with a pretty damn good response. He's like, "What, do you think we're not going to win?" Which sort of puts him on his heels. And Jimmy's there. Solo is just, he's the consummate, like, yep, this is what's going on around me right now. Jimmy's like, "Hey, Sammy, why don't you go take a breather? Why don't you take a minute?" And Sammy says, "Hey, why don't we go talk about that cool other thing we talked about later?" They do their crazy handshake and whatever. And he looks at Jimmy's like, "What the fuck's your problem with this guy?" Like, he's alright. "You like this guy?" "Yeah, I do like this guy." It is what it is. I love it. I'm going to keep saying it until it's true. The story of the Bloodline is not Sami Zayn, and it's not Roman Reigns. The story of the Bloodline is the absolute mental breakdown of Jey Uso. And that is... if that doesn't end up being the finality of the story, I'm going to be really, really upset. New Day talk about losing their tag team championship reign record last week, and they get interrupted by Imperium, and there's a very, "Oh yeah, well, we're going to get one more person and challenge you to a 6-man tonight. You better believe it." And I don't care. In the back, we see Emma and Madcap Moss giving Madcap Moss a pep talk because he's asked for a rematch with Karrion Kross. I don't know what they're going to do with this Emma thing, but Emma just came back herself. Let's not make her a sidekick. I'm just putting it out there. I mean, she's already doing better than Madison Rayne is in AEW, but that's AEW for you. Madcap Moss versus Karrion Kross, because WWE likes things that rhyme. Opening flurry by Madcap Moss. Kross takes control. There's a cheap shot by Scarlett on the outside. Madcap Moss gets another long flurry. Lots of tosses because he's a big guy and he can toss people. Scarlett distracts once again. There's a shot to the post, the Kross jacket, and Kross gets the win. Kross once again will not release the Kross jacket, and when he finally lets go, Emma comes out to check on what I guess is her guy. I will say, it was a squash. The answer, or the result, was never in any doubt. Madcap Moss really did make a good... as a guy who knows he's losing, and that I know that sounds cringy to say, he made a really good showing of himself in this match. And it's one of those... there's something missing, but I feel bad saying that there's something missing, because I want him to find whatever is missing, because he could be really good. I don't know if they're going to get there through giving him an on-screen girlfriend, but it is what it is. I mean, at the very least, we can see some mixed tag matches between them and Kross and Scarlett. I've never seen Scarlett wrestle. Does Scarlett wrestle? I'm ignorant on that because I only know what she's done in the WWE. I never got around to actually watching Control Your Narrative or any of that stuff. Does Scarlett Bordeaux wrestle, and is she good? And do I want to see Scarlett Bordeaux versus Emma, or do I want to see these two couples fight each other? I don't know that is the dynamic that's going to give Madcap Moss something to plant his flag on, but I want him to get good, because he was brought in as the gimmicky sidekick of a guy that was already a gimmick with the Happy Corbin Madcap Moss thing. Get rid of the shitty name too. Just like what's his real first name? His first name's like Riddick or something like that, which is already pretty cool. Let him be Riddick Moss. It's fine. Let Emma be Tenille Dashwood as well, but that's another story for another day. Bray Wyatt comes out and cuts a very Bray Wyatt promo. For years and years and years, he was taught the only way to get power was to make people afraid of you. But I can change, and I'm sorry for whatever overcame me last week when I headbutted what the hell's his name? I can't, like, guys, I'm so spacey tonight. This podcast probably sucks, and I apologize. He says, I'm sorry for what I did to LA Knight, and LA Knight finally comes out to confront him. And this is where I'm worried. I'm so intrigued by this combination of this whole, like, they're trying to do this deep sort of psychological, sort of, like, vulnerable guy story with Bray Wyatt, but then you're putting him up against LA Knight. LA Knight says, you know, I accept your apology, and he goes to give him a handshake, and he smacks him. He says, okay, there, now we're even. I think you respect me. I think you respect me because when you tried to scare me last week, I wasn't afraid of you, and the apology is accepted. And he says, we're even. And Bray Wyatt says, yeah, okay, one shot, we're all even, Steven, it's all good now, but what you do next will change your entire life or change your entire destiny, or however he phrased it. And it was very awkwardly framed as well. I don't talk about, like, framing and shit like that. I know a lot of people talk about WWE and their camera cuts and all that. I don't get into that because I don't dissect things on that level, typically. Although they're not wrong, it's just not something I'm going to focus on. It was very strange the way they framed this, though, because Bray Wyatt still in the ring, LA Knight sort of standing on the apron, and Bray Wyatt goes to shake his hand, like, in some sort of, like, truce thing, but he sticks his hand through the ropes, and LA Knight is supposed to, like, receive it, like, they're supposed to, like, shake hands under the rope type thing, and he goes to shake the hand, and he smacks him again, and the look on Bray Wyatt's face is sort of, like, the regular person. Okay, this is going to sound ridiculous no matter how I say it. The regular person, Bray Wyatt, is sort of pissed off that he got smacked in the face again. But he also plays off that, like, okay, I'm pissed off because I know you just did something bad, but I'm also trying to hold in this other darker side of me. And the way that they make the Uncle Howdy image flicker on the screen behind him while all that's going on is really cool, in my opinion. I know a lot of people are having some fun shitting on it already, but it is what it is. They see the Howdy glitch on the Tron. LA Knight's walking away. He says, that's how LA Knight does things. You got a 2-for-1 special. LA Knight, yeah. I'm like, alright, this is going to be good. Give me this on the show. It's absolutely fine. I have a really bad feeling that they're going to bury him. They're going to bury him really bad, or LA Knight's going to bury him without even really meaning to. Do you remember when the cult leader Bray Wyatt was, like, at its peak, at its hype, at its most, like, potential for this could be something really good, this could be its own unique thing, and all it took was John Cena to come out and laugh at it, and it could never be taken seriously again? We're on the cusp of that, even though Bray Wyatt's kind of the beloved babyface to a certain distinction of the wrestling fans, which includes myself, and LA Knight's the bad guy. People still like LA Knight. If he's laughing at something, then they're going to laugh at it too. Baszler versus Shotzi. I didn't really like how this went at all. I'm not going to lie. Baszler with Ronda at ringside for her to back her up. Like, if there's two people in the WWE that do not need any backup, it's Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, and now they're backing each other up, and there's something so obnoxiously good about that. But it is what it is. Lots of distraction, lots of double teaming. Shotzi looked alright. Like, you guys know my bias is towards Shotzi, and I'm happy for her to have this match at Survivor Series, but at the same time, we know where it's going. Raquel comes out at the very end because they'd been tag team partners for a little bit. The distraction gets a quick roll-up for Shotzi, which isn't really a very pronounced win for Shotzi, and also kind of makes Shayna Baszler look like a goof at a time where we're really trying to make Shayna Baszler not look like a goof. So I don't think anybody came out of this looking particularly good. We're going to get a tag team match next week because that's a decent bog standard way to lead up to a pay-per-view. Does that mean we're going to get Shayna Baszler versus Raquel Rodriguez on the kickoff or something like that? That wouldn't be terrible either. I'm not going to lie. But I don't know. Like I say, it's another one of those things. It's like the Miz stuff on Raw. Take Raquel Rodriguez out of the equation for a second. I like Baszler. I like that we're finally fixing Baszler. I like Ronda Rousey. I like the fact that she seems way more comfortable in her shoes than she has at any other point since she's joined the WWE, quite frankly. And Shotzi's always going to have a small spot in my heart because, you know, Destiny Wrestling, check it off your Spaz Phoenix bucket list. And also, I kind of happen to know because I met her that she's a relatively nice, decent human being. And that counts for something, by the way. But this didn't really help anybody. And then you get a really interesting interaction in the back. Actually, this was before the match, but I'm going to talk about it now. And the Usos run into Karrion Kross and Scarlett after Karrion Kross and Scarlett are done killing Madcap Moss, and they kind of say, "Hey, you're not the fifth guy of the Brawling Brutes team, are you?" And I thought that was really dumb because one of the people on the Brawling Brutes team is Drew McIntyre, who just finished going to war a couple of times with Karrion Kross, even though, yes, the matches were lackluster. And he says, "I'm not a follower, I'm not a team player. But one day I am going to come for your boy Roman and his belts." which was just great. And then you see LA Knight leaving the arena, and you get one of the... I hate to say this, but they're all kind of treated the same, so I just got to say one of the talking heads in the back trying to interview him. It's like, "Oh, you're leaving so soon. Is that because you're nervous about Bray Wyatt?" And he's like, "Yeah, do you keep doing your job after your job's done? Get the hell out of here," type of thing. And just as he pops the door open, in the dark behind the door, you see the outline of the Uncle Howdy mask, and it's good, and it's good like... what do I call it? Horror movie shot stuff when we come back from the commercial break. And every piece of equipment under God's green earth has been piled on top of LA Knight. And who could have possibly done this? I'm going to skip through this because it was just there. Imperium versus Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods and their mystery partner, Braun Strowman. All I got out of this was the desire to see Strowman versus Gunther. That's it. I'm pretty sure that's all this was done for. The New Day hit the midnight hour on one of the other Imperium members, and that's it. Did they just forecast or foreshadow the result of the SmackDown tournament on Fox? Probably. Braun Strowman goes to the back, and he's a good guy. He just teamed up with the ultimate good guys in the New Day, so Ricochet decides to go give him shit. "Hey, you're facing me next week. Let me show you what a flippy flopper can do. Your words, not mine, yo." And Ricochet shouldn't try to be tough, and yeah, Braun Strowman gave his opinion on a certain style of wrestling on Twitter. Oh my god, how dare he? Let's call the Twitter police. Oh no. I like Ricochet, but that was something that shouldn't have been scripted, shouldn't have been past the table, and shouldn't have been put on my television, because it was dumb on all levels. Oh yes. And then our main event is Sami Zayn versus Butch. And I'm not really going to talk much about the match because, Sami Zayn and Pete Dunne are not going to give you a bad match, are they? Everybody was out. Everybody was out except for Roman Reigns and the mystery fifth person, obviously, because they wanted to keep the numbers even for the match. All kinds of action on the outside from the Usos, from Solo, from the other members of the Brawling Brutes and Drew McIntyre unit. Butch actually got the win, I think, which means we're going to get Butch versus Santos Escobar next week, which is the story that's kind of going untold right now, because they brawl. The Brawling Brutes get a sort of a head start. They get an advantage in the situation, and Roman Reigns comes out to his music, and his music is so distinctly crafted for his long, slow entrance that to see him actually come to the ring in somewhat of a relative hurry to that music was kind of entertaining to me. I'm not gonna lie. He stands tall against Drew McIntyre, which was a good scene. He stands tall against Sheamus. Like the first time him and Sheamus really laid eyes on each other, the crowd popped huge. But then we see the fifth member of the Brawling Brutes Drew McIntyre team, and who could it be? It could be anybody. Big shocking surprise return. Big shocking. It's Kevin Owens, isn't it? It's Kevin Owens. That's going to be it. Now, the rumor is that Kevin Owens is still working through a strain in his leg or something like that, which is why he hasn't been on TV for the past little while. But apparently he's going to fight through it for the purposes of the pay-per-view. So you got a guy with a bad leg who's just signed on to do WARGAMES. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you with that one. I don't know what to say positively or negatively about that. Do you want to say that it's kind of silly, or do you want to say good for him for gutting it out? I don't really know. But The standoff, there's a couple different standoffs that are cool. There was a standoff between Solo Sikoa and Drew McIntyre before the last two people came out. There was a standoff between Solo Sikoa and Kevin Owens, and I'm like, fuck yes, give me that match right now. Battle of the dudes in shorts. But then you get the stare down between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns, and they have history, which is all kinds of nice, and that sort of settles in. And then after they throw some punches, Owens nails the stunner on Roman Reigns, and that's when Sami Zayn has to sit there to one side of the ring and compute everything that's happening in front of him. His best friend, good friend, better enemy, Kevin Owens, coming out like, are they going to come to blows? Is he going to defend Kevin Owens? Is he going to defend his tribal chief? And that whole thing. And that is the entire narrative for the War Games match. You can throw whoever else you want in this match. The narrative is Sami Zayn technically being on Roman Reigns' team, going up against a team that has his friend Kevin Owens in it. I'm sorry, you can take Drew McIntyre out of the equation. You can take the Brawling Brutes out of the equation. You can take the Bloodline, realistically, out of the Usos and Solo out of the equation. The triangle story now, I mean, the Jay stuff is going to come into a factor as well. Let's not kid ourselves. But the triangle of story for that match is going to be Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, and I think that's a unique dichotomy, to say the very, very least. There's no question of loyalty, or there's no question of teamwork on the ladies' side, good people, and the bad side is just we're a three-person team already. We've added the crazy chick, and the last person that added herself to our team wants to get her hands on the other side just as much as we do. So neither one of those teams has a question of loyalty, or is there going to be a turning? Is there going to be a Tegan Nox Dakota Kai moment? Now, where you could get a Tegan Nox Dakota Kai moment is everybody focuses on the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Roman Reigns story, and Jay turns on Sami Zayn before Sami Zayn can even get in the match. But you don't do that, because as much as Jay wants to get his hands on Sami Zayn, Jay doesn't want to piss off his tribal chief, and taking out a member of the tribal chief's team would piss off the tribal chief, would it not? There's a lot of intrigue going on here, I'm not going to lie. It's what War Games is supposed to do. The thing is, here's the thing and here's the thing, right? Because there's two, and I get it, you can't do a new thing in wrestling nowadays without creating two. There has to be a men's Money in the Bank and a women's Money in the Bank. There has to be a men's Elimination Chamber and a women's Elimination Chamber. There has to be a men's Royal Rumble. There has to be a women's Royal Rumble. If you're going to do War Games, there has to be a men's War Games and a women's War Games. I get that. And please believe me when I say I do not have a problem with that. I love the War Games concept, and two is better than one. But what it means, look at all the pay-per-views that have the doubling up of the stipulations. It means one's going to kick off the show. And that means by the time we get to whichever one is considered to be the main event, and I'm sorry, let's be real, it's going to be this one. I would love the ladies' War Games match to main event, because there's way more individuals in that match that I'm interested in, way more individuals, but whatever you want to say about it, the Bloodline is the biggest story in the WWE. It crosses over shows, it crosses over pay-per-views, it crosses over feuds that are into other feuds, also, one of the longer-standing stories in the WWE is the feud between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. One of the biggest stories in all of the WWE is the war/friendship/war between Drew McIntyre and Sheamus. One of the biggest storylines going on right now is that the Bloodline have all the unified titles. One of the biggest storylines going on right now is that the Usos just broke the tag team title reign record. All of that tells you that is going to be the main event. So it means that the ladies' War Games match is going to jerk the curtain at Survivor Series, and I don't know that that's particularly a great thing, because that's a match you could break off into 4 or 5 or 6 individual feuds. That being said, Survivor Series, I don't really have the typical, you guys know by now, I do a breakdown of Raw, breakdown of SmackDown, and then I usually have a whole bunch of here's my thoughts from the week and all that kind of thing. I don't really have one of those this week because I didn't write one, I'll be real. But the Survivor Series right now, Miz versus Dexter is Knight versus Wyatt is going to be kind of fun. Shotzi versus Ronda looks really good. Ronda versus Styles is going to be really good. Rollins versus Theory, which I'm pretty sure is going to happen, will be good. The men's and the women's War Games match are all set except for one spot on the babyface team. And here's my shout out to WWE. Here's my shout out for who should be the 5th member of the babyface women's War Games team. Anybody but Sasha Banks. Oh yes. Actually, I should say one thing I'll take away from this, and it's probably not the top headline on anybody's list, but I'm going to say it for myself because I hope the guy does well. I really do like the fact that they've hit the reset button on Austin Theory, and I think hitting the reset button on Austin Theory, giving him a great sell job from Ziggler, setting him up for a title match that's for a mid-card title, but that mid-card title is held by a main eventer in Seth Rollins, is going to do him no end of good. And that's going to be one of the undersold stories of Survivor Series if that match is actually made. I'm really excited about Survivor Series. The next time you hear from me, well, that's not true at all, is it? As I trip over my own words. You're going to get an NXT review from me this week, probably, if work doesn't kick my ass. But regardless of work kicking my ass, you're definitely going to get a Survivor Series preview from me on Friday morning, Friday afternoon, something like that. So, what I'm going to ask you, if you're listening to this in an audio platform, you're going to have to do it to me on Twitter, or the other Twitter that we're not supposed to mention, at Spaz Phoenix. Or if you're listening to this on Rumble or YouTube, put it down in the comment section. What are your thoughts going into the Survivor Series War Games PLE? Who do you want to win? Who do you want to lose? Who do you want to be in that last spot? Anybody but Sasha Banks? What questions do you want answered at Survivor Series? What stories do you want told at Survivor Series? And what are some other topics around Survivor Series that you would like me to touch on in the Survivor Series preview? Put all of that down in the box below, or find me on Twitter at SpazPhoenix, or on Instagram at SpazPhoenix, or on the other Twitter that we're not supposed to talk about at SpazPhoenix. And yeah, I'm going to take my shitty, raspy sounding, tired ass voice out of your ear holes now. I've been Spaz, your YWC reality check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, you guys know the drill. Tagging out. Bye, guys.